Stephen, welcome to the Attention Now podcast. It's great to have you here, my friend.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, man. Good to see
Yeah,
you
it's
again.
it's been about a year and a half. I think it's been about a year and a half since I saw you in Florida with met your lovely wife as well. So it's
Yep.
great to see you and have you on the podcast. Talk about some great stuff that you're doing and talk about see how you could help other people out there that are listening to the show as well.
Sure.
Awesome. Let's start with an introduction, and if I miss anything, if you could add to it, that would be awesome. Which I know you could always add more, which what I love about you, man. So, and when we first met, we only met for like 5 minutes because we were so busy that whole weekend. So,
Mhm.
but I could tell the instant connection, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Steven's an Army combat veteran, Bronze Star medal recipient who has been handpicked to consult with some of the most influential people in the world: rock stars, singers, actors, business leaders, and politicians about how to expand their brand, build value and loyalty, and develop strategies for increased beneficial relationships and achieve true quality of life. Steven is a best-selling author of Unleash Your Humble Alpha. Steve teaches people how to achieve their own version of quality of life. That is the Humble Alpha Leader Program. Steven is also known as the Hitman, which I love. So it's pretty cool. So let's get started. Let's start off with your military career. When did you decide to join the Army and why, Steven?
Oh, actually, when I was 8 years old, I decided to join the Navy.
Oh, wow.
And then my whole childhood, from eight until I was about 16 or 17, I was prepping to go to the Navy. I went to Navy prep sort of classes to learn how to do all this stuff. So when I went to boot camp, I'd be squared away. Um, but when I went to sign up for the Navy, they left me sit in the MEP station or in the recruiting. Actually, it wasn't the MEP station where they had the recruiters. It was on the Cumberland Army Depot in Pennsylvania. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm waiting, and this dress blues kept walking by, right? Army guy. He's like, "What are you waiting for?" I'm like, "Waiting for the Navy." He's like, "You be waiting all your life for the Navy. Come join the Army." I was like, "No, no, I'm joining the Navy, man." And he kept walking by, and the more I looked at him, I'm like, "He's squared away, man." I'm like, "Look at this guy." And the Navy's just letting me sit there for like an hour.
Wow.
So I said, "What do you got?" Well, that's when I signed up for the Army. So that's how I ended up in the Army. And yeah, I always wanted to go to the military. My family goes back, we're sons of the American Revolution. Like we go all the
Oh,
way back,
wow.
right?
Okay.
My whole family. So fought in every conflict, every war, you name it. It's our family was involved.
So I have to know, why did you pick the arm or the Navy initially?
I don't know. It was just as a kid, you see I used to watch all the war films,
Okay, got it.
Second World War, the sea, open sea, and the battles and everything, that of course, when you're young.
Kind of got
I
your
remember
attention.
asking, I remember asking the recruiter, the Navy recruiter in front of the class. I'm like, "Hey, do you have to pick a specific job or can you just like be on the boat?" And he was like, "No, we have enough paint chippers. We need you need to get a job."
Oh, that's hilarious. Let's
But
stick with the
I had
Army
some
thing.
friends. I had friends in a year above me that went to the Marines. And I'll
Okay.
never forget this. We were standing, so he came back from boot camp and he was standing in the lobby of the high school where I was, and all the recruiters were there with like kids that left high school the year before, and they were standing there like done, dressed, and there was this guy, I forget what his name was, but he was standing there with the Army recruiter at attention, a Marine, and a mosquito landed on his face and bit him, and blood was running down his face. He didn't move at all, like didn't move, didn't flinch, just and there's like blood running down his face like this. And I was like, I think that's a little too hard for me.
I have
I
discipline, but
go,
not that much discipline. Thank you.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was one of the most valuable lessons you learned while you were in the Army?
I think his attention to detail is a big one, but I don't know how valuable that is. That's more like OCD, if you ask me. But I think it's to know when to follow orders and know when to when to react. You
Okay.
know, you learn quick that if you ask, "Why should I duck?" You're already dead, right? Or "Why should I get down?" You're already dead. So, I think that's one of the things I carry with me. Also, from war is also one of the things I carried with me is, man, your reaction time's got to be quick, but you can't flinch or be scared. So there's a fine line in between reacting and sort of jerking, jerking your way out or whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great that it creates that reaction for you, and I carried that along in business for myself as well. Always reacting, responding to people right away. And I
Yeah.
was always, my mind was always blown. It's like, dude, I just called that person. Why didn't he call me back? It's like I couldn't
Yeah.
get it through my head, right? So it took me many years
Yeah.
to figure out
That's
most people don't operate that way.
They don't operate that way. There's no urgency. There's no accountability. I'm so disappointed in the world.
Yes. Me and you both, brother.
Yeah, oh man, it's crazy, especially in our business. People come to you for something, they're wanting, $50 million. And you're like, okay, this is how it works. We're going to get you the money. Once you get to the money, you got to put in the documents, fill out the proper paperwork, and put in your due diligence paperwork. You need a cash flow, you need a spread, all this kind of stuff. And they take, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they still haven't uploaded it. Wait
Wow.
a second. You come to me for money. You're begging me for money. You need it ASAP, but you don't have the time to upload the documents we need to give you the money. Come on. So I always warn them. I'm like, I'm going to warn you. If you drop the ball on this, we will leave. Like we
Yes.
have to hit that hard. Otherwise, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, my wife and my kids, and there was a hurricane. I've heard it all.
Okay,
There's
my
a there's
homework.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there was a tornado. I've heard it all. It's incredible the excuses people make not to do what they said they would.
Right.
For me, integrity is easy. And integrity is real simple explanation. Do what you say you're going to do. Don't do what you say you're not going to do. And if you screw up, fix it, make it better, and apologize. Done. That's integrity.
Absolutely. Man,
Yeah.
that blows my mind if they're looking for that much money and they still drag their feet. That's crazy.
Oh, billions. We have a deal right now for $1 billion, and the guy's like, yeah. Oh, I haven't gotten to it yet. Sure, we'll hold $1 billion for you. No one else wants it, right?
You know what? And I've learned over the years, unfortunately, I think most people that have served in the armed forces have a serving heart and want to believe the best in people, right? But over the years, guess what? I figured, and I learned the hard way, right? It's like you can't rely on those people. You can't work with those people. You got to walk away, which
Yeah.
is which is crazy. But
And if you do it, if you have a career or a job or a task or a company that you repeatedly run into this, you start getting cynical, you start being you sort of shorter with your answers, and then you weed them out quicker and quicker and quicker to the point where sometimes it's even detrimental sometimes for me because I'm like, okay, who is this guy? He's not even, oh no, okay, we're not into this. And then my partner's like, give him a chance, give him a chance. And we talk, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that could work. But you get so sick of this lack of reaction, lack of follow through, lack of follow up, lack of communication. It's just, it's incredible what people, yeah, well, I'm busy. Well, who isn't?
right, exactly, right,
When someone tells me they're too busy to get back to me, that means that they have a time management crisis.
right. Well, I think another thing I heard too is like, you know what? Everyone always has their phone in their hands, right? So if you send them text or if you call them and they're not responding, you're not on their top priority list. And they,
Exactly.
so it's, so there you go. You're out.
Good point.
Basically, is what you're saying.
Good point. Good point.
What was the biggest challenge you faced while you were in the Army?
Recreating who I was, finding out who I was supposed to be. I went in, I was like an overweight kid, had no self-discipline. I had no self-belief. I sucked at everything I did. I was a doofus basically. And I went in the military. And when I went in to the reception station, I had like a 1980s disco mullet. So it
Oh
was
my
like
gosh,
feathered
yeah.
back with long in the back. And I went in there, and as I was shaving my head, I said to myself, this is the last time that guy will ever look at you in the mirror.
Wow.
I was 19 years old, and I said that to myself, and I swear that guy never looked at me again. And I got rid of that guy. I went through hell. I ran like I'm not a runner by any means. I'm 6'4", 250. I mean, at the time I was 6'4", 240. So I'm basically the same as I was when I went into boot camp.
Oh, wow.
And I would run to front of formation because I knew if I was in the back, I'd probably fall out and like no one's watching. So I always ran in the front. I'm like running, vomiting on myself. I would not stop. I would not quit. I didn't care what happened. I didn't care what was going on. I'm not dropping out. I had heat exhaustion. I collapsed. I passed out. I went to the hospital because I completely dehydrated.
Oh my gosh. Well, you had the right mindset back then, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it was survival.
Right.
It was survival because I knew if I didn't do it then, I'll never do it. And I was 19 years old thinking this.
But most people don't have that, right?
Well, you got to look where I came
wind up
from.
quitting or stopping.
Yeah. Well, you got to look where I came from, Dave. You know, my
Right.
my mom was married 4 or 5 times by the time I was 18 years old. We skipped around, stepfathers more than most people change their clothes.
Okay.
And one of them stuck a gun on my mouth. One of them threw me down the stairs. One of them smashed my face into a wall. The other one's beaten with a belt. So like I knew I knew that I had to get out of there. I knew that that was my life, man. Like I
Wow.
came from that, and I knew at 19, if I don't get away from this, I'm going to end up like this.
Okay.
And I mean, I knew that clearly because no one liked me. I had like two friends. One of them was my brother, my twin. I had no women. I was a virgin at 19. It was like nothing. You
Wow.
know, yeah. And I got kicked out of school a couple times, and I was always in trouble. Just one of those kids that were struggling, man. Like I was talking to my wife the other day, actually yesterday. She was talking about a grandfather and how he formed her, and she never met her father. Her father, she never met him. And I said, "Well, your grandfather sounds strong." And then I thought back and I said, "You know what? I've never had a man in my life, a father figure.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
The first person that was my father figure was a guy named Command Sergeant Major Alton B. Eckert,
Okay.
Vietnam veteran, Battalion Command Sergeant Major. We ended up becoming friends, if you can do that. I was a sergeant, he was a Command Sergeant Major, and this guy, I think he saw in me who he used to be.
Got it.
And
Wow.
this guy gave me more trust and more responsibility than anyone ever gave me in my life. And he didn't even ask me; he just said, "Okay, I trust you. Go." And I'm like,
Wow.
I'm taking care of the whole battalion now, Sergeant E5, right? And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You got it. I trust you." And that was like, whoa, you know? So the Army was my father.
Holy cow. That's
The
amazing.
Army was truly my father. And I always looked for a leader in my senior NCOs or NCOs. It was like a father to me because I needed that. I needed leadership as a
Right.
man,
Right.
masculine human being. And I found one for Sergeant Schatzi, who was in Schweinfurt. Sergeant Major Eckert, he was in Gelnhausen. In Berlin, unfortunately, I had none. When I was in Berlin Brigade, I had none. But I went to Iraq with Sergeant Major, and
Okay.
he brought me to Iraq. And I had a very dangerous episode in Iraq where something could have happened very, very badly. He saw it. He went in, didn't make a big deal, and just sort of slipped in there and fixed everything, and it was cool. And that's the kind of man he was. And I was like, that's a father right there. That's a dad. And he's got some great children, by the way, too. So he
Amazing.
lives in
Amazing.
Pittsburgh. He's still alive. Vietnam veteran. He's still alive. He did like, I don't know, like 3 tours in Vietnam. Like, and I've never seen him smile, not once in my life ever. And I
Oh my
spent a
God.
lot of time with this guy, but he's real. He's the realest person I ever met.
Wow. That's amazing that, talks a lot about leadership. If you care about your troops or care about your employees and actually show it, they're gonna do anything for you, which is amazing, right? So, which most people nowadays are just all about themselves. It's like, what can I do for myself? It's like, screw everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I took those lessons that I got from him and from the rest of the leaders that I had in the Army that were real. I had some junior NCOs as well that were decent. But I took that into my business life afterwards, and I opened up, in total to this day, 20 of my own businesses, exited those businesses. But when I took over a corporation, it was a large, large corporation. It was 85 locations, 87 locations, 9 countries, 3,500 employees. I
Wow.
was operations and development manager, and I had to train every single staff. I had to train every single location, and I instilled this kind of what's your mission, what's your vision as a person, and how can I align that with a company? Which position fits you best? It may not be the position you're in now, but it could be a position elsewhere that will be fulfilling for you. And so I went into this company and I absolutely completely changed that company, increased the revenue like exponentially. And they're like, how? And then, of course, I'm going to plug my book, but it's all in the book. That whole story that I just told you in detail, how I did it, what I did, it's all in the book. And I attribute that to my time. And everything that I do is my time in the military. That's where I found out who I was, what I was about, how tough I was, how tough I wasn't. Right? I found out a lot about myself in the military. I don't think a lot of people apply what they learn in the military. I think they use it as a badge a lot of times. You hear
Right.
that disgruntled veteran or disabled veteran. I don't wear the badges,
Right.
like look at me kind of thing. But I pull on that. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the military. And I've been out since 1993.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't flaunt it either, right? A lot of people flaunt it, but it's like, you know what? That was a step in my life. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot that differentiated me versus a lot of people, right? So I just pretty much
Well,
own that. and just used it for my advantage, just like you are, right?
And I can tell you why. I can tell you why you could do that. Because you found yourself your true identity. You're closer to your own identity. Most people, when you ask them who they are, they'll say, I'm the CEO, I'm a Marine, I'm a soldier, I'm a Navy guy, I'm a veteran. No. That's what you do or what you've done. Who are you? And then they go, what do you mean, who am I? And they can't even answer it.
Right.
And so when you have, look, I have a perfect example. When I was in the military, when you're in the military, I look at you, you're in uniform. I see your rank, where you've been, what combat you've been in, how long you've been. I see everything about you. I don't have to talk to you, know your name or nothing, but I know, okay, he's legit.
Right.
Right? I see it. I can square it away. You get out of the military, no one knows shit about you. So here, I get out of the military. I was stationed in Germany for 7 years. I got out and stayed there in Germany after the Gulf War. And I was a doorman at the Hard Rock Cafe.
Nice.
Standing at the Hard Rock Cafe, 27 years old, out of combat, raging PTSD at the time, right? Got my Bronze Star for some stupid shit that happened, and just fooling myself, I guess you could say, in my head, like, what am I going to do with my life? Here I am, a doorman. I was just in Iraq, and now I'm here. So, and this kid comes up. He's like 14 years old. He goes, I'd like to get in. I said, sorry, I got to be 18 to get in. He said, F you, old man, get a real job. And you're like, your whole body snaps like, oh, I'm going to kill this guy. And then you think, he has no idea who I am.
Right.
Like zero. Exactly. So suddenly my identity, which was maybe the uniform, the rank, whatever, combat patch, all this stuff, it disappeared overnight. And no one knew who I was anymore, let alone me. I definitely didn't know who I was. So I went into a downward spiral like you wouldn't believe. And I had a nervous breakdown where I actually I was out of my mind for like 2 weeks. Like I was not connected to my body. I was separate from my entity.
Right.
It was, I woke up naked in the park in Berlin.
Oh
no idea. No idea how I got it. It's okay. Because in Berlin, you could be naked. No one cares.
Okay. Good. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I lost my mind. And that was the beginning of my journey. And then I climbed back up again and I fell. It was like this, man.
So why do so many people hang on to that are veterans that are our age even?
Because it's their only thing they've ever done in their life where they feel like they actually did something that mattered.
Okay. It's the only thing they ever accomplished, basically.
Well, no, it's something that matters.
Okay.
You can say, I fought for freedom. I stood up for my country. I risked my life. I signed a blank check. All these things that veterans we always say. And that's something that not many people do. So that makes you feel special. And it is special. It's very, very special. But, that was 32 years ago, Stephen. Why are you still talking about it? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Right.
It's sort of like Al Bundy talking about football. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome. That makes sense. What was one of the missions that still keeps you up at night, not because of the danger, but because of what it meant to you personally?
There's one situation that's in the preface of the book. So I was on Highway 8 in Basra.
Okay.
During the ceasefire, right after the ceasefire started. And they were bombing Basra. The Shiites were bombing the Sunnis, or the Sunnis were bombing the Shiites. And or Saddam, the Ba'ath Party was bombing the Shiites. And all the refugees were coming to us. And we would separate them. And if they weren't enemy combatants, didn't have an ID card or whatever, we'd have to send them back out in the desert. And we're in the middle of the freaking desert, right? And there's this pink dot that's coming towards me with like a tall person and a little person with a pink dot. And it's a little girl in a pink dress.
Oh, wow.
With her arms out like this. She's had her arms out like this. And as she gets closer, I see that she's burnt from here down. And her clothes are burnt into her skin. And they put this dress on top of her, I guess, to shield her from the sun or something. And she comes to me, this little girl, maybe 7, 8 years old. And I sent her to the medics. We had a medic track there, 113 or 115. And I sent her to the medic track. She came back out, bandaged up, and we had to send her back out in the desert because we couldn't do it. We had nowhere to put her. Yeah. We couldn't put her in the EPW's truck because she was an enemy prisoner of war. And I'm like, what am I doing, man?
Right.
What is this shit? So I had nothing to give her. All I had was in my grenade pockets, I had butterscotch candy. The little yellow ones that you open up.
Yeah. Yep.
Because my aunt would send them to me all the time to keep my mouth, moist. And so I grab one of these, get on my knee, and I hand it to her. She looks at it, she takes it, and she's like, "Can I?" I'm like, "Yeah, open it." She opened it, And she smiled and had the most beautiful smile and was beautiful. And it hit me so hard, man, because we can't even get along with our own freaking people, our neighbors, our family, we can't get along with anybody. And here's this little girl who lost everything and burned from head to toe, smiled over a piece of freaking candy.
Man, oh man. Holy cow.
And to this day, I'm looking for her. She's got to
Wow.
be about 40 years old now, about 40, 42 years old now.
That must have been gut wrenching. I can't even believe it.
That was a decision that when I knew I was getting out, right? That
Okay.
very moment, I knew I was getting out of the military. Right then, I'm like, I'm done. Matter of
Right.
fact, I did everything I could to get out.
Okay. Man, oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to find her one day. I hope she's still okay. You know what I mean?
It was close one time. One time I met a girl, same age from Basra, was there at that time. I was like, oh my God. And she was burnt. I was like, oh
Okay.
my God. She was from Iraq. I was like, oh my God. I know. I almost wanted to stop asking her because I wanted to be her.
Right.
Turns out it wasn't her, but I had still had a connection with her because it was felt if my whole emotion just wrapped around it like that. It was crazy. Crazy.
You know, the kids just love everything, right? They love people. They love, doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
look like. You know, if you're friendly, if you're good to them, guess what? They're going to reciprocate with
Yeah.
some love and just a smile. That was her love, right? Back to you,
Mhm.
right? So, I know a lot of people nowadays. It's like, all they want is conflict, battle, wars, and I know you talk about it. Going on with Ukraine, and that happened here in the U.S. as you know as well. So, I just wish we could all just get along and not worry about that stuff. But unfortunately, people love the money, right? People want to make
Well,
that.
it's not, it's,
They don't care
it's,
what they
it's
want
a
to do.
whole programming that's been going for years and years and years to the
Right.
point where, look, people are frustrated. Things are expensive. Jobs don't pay anything anymore. The very few have the very much, and everybody's frustrated and they can't get ahead. And so there's some guy talking to you, giving you an opinion about something that you don't agree with or even care about. You're going to lash out at them. That's sort of where everybody is. Everyone has too much to lose, and they all want something, but they all have too much to lose. I was talking about that the other day on another podcast. Is the average debt in America per person is $70,000. Every baby is born at $70,000 debt. So I had a buddy who was a policeman in the United States during COVID, and he was like throwing people on the ground, cuffing them up for not being masked. And I said, dude, what the hell's wrong with you, man? You can't. You're circumventing freedom and your freedom of movement, and for what? He goes, dude, if I don't do that, they're going to fire me. I lose my pension. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay my car payment. And I
Right.
was like, holy shit. No wonder nobody's standing up.
Their hands are cuffed.
Everybody.
Yep.
Why do you think there's that credit card debt in America, the largest debt in the world? American credit cards. Strongest country in the world. The amount of people that are rebels at heart, Americans are all rebels at heart,
Right.
are handcuffed with debt because if they lose their job, if they get canceled, they lose everything. So they got us, brother. Like that's why I say be an entrepreneur, build your business, open up, move, make it
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Live your own life and don't be locked down by anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that, like, even during COVID, they wouldn't speak up if they thought otherwise. Right. It's like, hey, don't wear.
Lose my
I'm not gonna
job.
wear a mask, but as soon as they went out, they wore a mask. Right. And one of my grocery stores here locally was pretty lenient, and I never wore a mask. Never.
Yeah.
Not once.
Dude, I was in Lima, Chile.
Okay.
I traveled to Italy during COVID. I was in Venice during COVID. There was like 3 people in the entire city. It was amazing. And I went on vacation. I didn't wear a mask. And it was always the certainty that I had about myself. Like I'm walking around like I don't have to wear a mask. So no one ever asked me. Occasionally someone asked me. I was in the Lima airport where you had to not only wear a mask, but a shield.
Okay.
Everybody, the
Wow.
glass with the long shield and a mask. I didn't wear anything. I walked past the police, security, immigration. No one even said anything to me because I walk around like, yeah, I don't need to wear one. That's
Yeah.
just, I
Well, I'm
embody
sure. I'm sure your size had something to do with it too, though, Steven.
that.
If I say something to this guy, he's gonna crush me, right? So,
No, no, it's about owning your presence.
right, but right,
Right. And honestly, that's what it says right there. Own your presence in life.
right,
That's what the book teaches. Like, how do you own your presence? So when people look at you like, okay, he knows his shit, I'm not going to mess with him. Like what he says goes. It's true. It's honest. It's full of integrity. He's not going to mess around. So if he doesn't wear a mask, there's obviously a reason for that.
right.
So it was
I
crazy.
downloaded the book. I started listening to it. I haven't listened to all of it, but I'm going to listen to it all this week. So
Right.
the part I heard about is great. Owning your presence. But do you think owning your presence also includes what are the characteristics of owning that presence? If you could break those down.
The characteristics,
Yeah.
it's certainty. Everything boils down to certainty. Everything. Certainty in your abilities to deploy your genius and your talents in any given situation.
And how do you create that certainty? How can you create one if you don't have that certainty? How do you create it?
Starts with identity, brother. We already talked about that. It
Yes,
starts with identity. Then your purpose crystallizes after you have that identity. That purpose then amplifies your identity. And that creates the certainty that you have because you know who you are, you know your purpose, it's amplified through the purpose, and there you are certain. This is me, this is who I am. If you hear me speak, which you do, have you heard me say, like I don't do that. It's
No, you don't. You're straightforward,
I
right?
know. I
Yeah.
know what I'm saying. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. Right? That's where the owning the presence comes. Certainty allows you to let go of the how you're going to do anything. And that's why you can move quickly, swiftly, and with purpose across any room because you know you're going where you're going, period. Because you're certain of it. Doesn't matter how you're going to get there. Doesn't matter how you're going to reach it. Doesn't matter how you're going to make the money. You just know you're certain of it. Don't confuse certainty with confidence. You can be overconfident. You can't be overcertain.
And did you always have that certainty
No,
in your
hell
life?
no. Dude, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, man. I had nothing.
Okay.
I
How
had
did that
nothing.
develop over the years?
Trial and error, torches and flames and fire and coal and brimstone.
So it could be a long journey for someone that's looking to acquire that, right?
No, it doesn't have to be. The cool thing about the book, I hate to keep plugging my book, but
No,
the
no,
cool
I
thing,
love it. Hey, you know what? That's what this is all about, teaching people.
okay, there's 5 models in here to live by, right? So each model has a few stories, a lesson from those stories, and then the exact action steps. So chapter 1, identity. At the end of that chapter, you have action steps. Exactly what to do to come up with your identity statement, and what we call your 2-word moniker that explains who you are. So you can take that and deploy it in your life. And so that's the thing. I remember reading, all these self-help books when I was growing up, and Carnegie and the famous one, I forget his name now, but how to influence people and all these things, and the habits of highly successful people, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, why do they always make you use a highlighter? Why can't I just have everything at the end when I'm done so I can go through it again? So I said to my publisher, I'm like, when I write my book, there better be action steps at the end with
awesome.
results, period. And that's what we did. And that's why it's been picked up by like 10 universities now.
I love
it. As curriculum, believe it or not.
Well, for people that want to find that, get Steven's book. I just downloaded it this morning, so I'm going through it. And
Cool.
But let me tell you, Steven owns his presence. When I first met him, it's like, hey, that's a guy I need to meet. I knew he was a military guy, so I just went straight up to him. It's like, hey, my name's Dave Diaz. I was in the Marine Corps, and he was really open and chatted, right? And that's what life's all about, is helping others to try to succeed and elevate themselves, right? Which is
It's funny you say that, because I get that all the time. Like, people say, man, you just so easily talk to people. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? I'll tell you why most people don't, because they're guarded and they're worried, what's this person want from me?
Right.
And that means you're not sure of your own presence. Like, what kind of presence are you exuding that you're not sure of how people should be reacting or acting towards you? So for me, talk to me. I've never turned anybody down. I talk to everybody. I don't, my wife even says, maybe you don't have to talk to so many people.
Right.
Well, you met Olga.
Yes, exactly. Great lady as well. Actually, I had something similar to me. One of my ex-wives that she would always
one of my ex-wives.
One of my list of ex-wives. So she, I think we stopped at a convenience store. I went inside, and when I came back in the car, she goes, "How come you talk to everybody, and when you leave, they're laughing or smiling?" It's like, it doesn't cost me anything, right? It's like, if I can make their day, why not?
Yeah.
Right. So,
So amen to that. I agree.
So I know you said you had some challenges with PTSD and TBI, right?
Yeah.
How did you deal with those and overcome them?
Well, that's the whole funny thing about it is, I didn't really work that hard on it until 2008. So 2008, I was hustling and grinding, like you do, right? When you get out of the military, you want to push. So from 93 96, I opened my first cocktail bar, second cocktail bar, third cocktail bar, nightclub, insurance agency, wrote a best-selling book, was an MTV VJ, was a news anchor, all in Germany, by the way.
Wow.
Uh, opened a construction company and insurance, like I said, insurance brokerage, ran a corporation, wrote a book, got my MBA, all at the same time, by the way. So I was nonstop.
You weren't sleeping, brother. Holy
Why
cow.
was I doing that? Because I was suppressing the pain. I was
Got it.
suppressing the problems. And I didn't know that then. But and so 2008, it all came to a head and I crashed and burned hard, had a suicide attempt. I was at a traffic stop and the cops, I was going 90 in a 30 zone. And they stopped me. It was a big speed trap with a bunch of cops. And I got out. I just had a fight with my girlfriend at the time. And she had gotten out of the car. And she comes up and she goes, arrest him. He's a murderer. He killed people in Iraq. And I was like, what? Like, how could
Wow.
you say something like that?
Evil, evil.
Yeah, yeah. And I just sat there and I was looking, I'm crying. Snot's coming out of my nose. I'm losing my shit, right? And I looked down and there's a trainee police officer beside me, like a little girl, not a little girl, but like a young girl. And I looked down and I just calmly and quietly reached down, unsnapped her holster and pulled her weapon out. And I brought it to my head and everybody just froze. And my girlfriend at the time, who had walked up to the checkpoint now because she got out of the car like 100 meters back, she's like, do it, do it.
Man, gosh.
Yeah. So they tackled her, took her around the corner, around behind the paddy wagon. And this little trainee girl standing beside me just came in front of me like this. And she goes, I know you, Stephen. This isn't you. And she just took my hand and like this and put it back in her holster.
Wow.
That was more impactful than a billy club to the head. Because someone stands in front of you who you don't know who knows you. Because I had written a best-selling book. I think I told you I was a newscaster, MTV VJ. So a lot of people knew who I was. Apparently, she had read my book,
Wow.
the first one. And they put me in the paddy wagon. They took my license. They took my car, but they didn't find me or charge me with the weapon. Stealing the weapon. They're very social, the German police. They were anyway.
Wow.
So at the time I was homeless. I just had my car and I lived with my girlfriends when we weren't fighting. But I had an apartment that I was renting to a friend until I could afford it again. And I went to the apartment. I said, dude, I just need some time by myself. He's like, dude, come on. Just give me an hour or so. So he left. I went into my closet, took out my army uniform, hung it up, my dress uniform, straightened it up, took a picture of myself in the military, stuck it there, pulled out the K-bar from the Marines that I have as a plaque, because I have more awards from the Marines than I do from the Army, believe it or not, because I was
wow.
working with the Marines all the time and they give great awards. I got this massive K-bar, you split a hair 3 times with it.
Yep.
And I hung the uniform up, the picture, gun on my knees, pulled the K-bar out, and I stuck it to my neck. And I was going to just, slice it. And as soon as I went like this, someone pounded on the door. I'm like, I can't even freaking kill myself.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
what a loser. So I got out with a knife in my hand, opened the door. I'm like, what? And it was that young police officer
Wow.
who followed me home or found my address or whatever she did. And she said, can I come in? I'm like, yeah. And she came in and took my hand again, lowered the knife, put it down on the counter at the front door, and took me into my own living room as if she'd been there before and said, look, Stephen, I know you. This is not who you are. You're an amazing man. You're going to have kids. You're going to change the world. I'm like, who the fuck is this person? Excuse my French. I'm like, who is this? And she talked for a couple of minutes and then she said, okay, ciao, and a kiss on the cheek, and off she went. That's what they do in Germany, And off she went out the door. And when she closed the door, I wanted to open it and look to see if it was real, but I didn't open it. Because I was like, that happened for a reason, whatever that was. If it was an angel, if it was real, if it wasn't real, if I just made it up in my head, I don't know, whatever it did, it saved me. But I'm not safe. So I called my friend Michael in Austria and I said, dude, if you don't come get me, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm not going to make it. So he came, got me tickets, flew to Austria. He picked me up and he put me into a monastery with Benedictine monks.
Wow.
Where I lived for 8 months. No one knew where I was except for my mother. I had no internet, no laptop, no cell phone. I had no TV. I had nothing. I was with monks. I didn't speak for the first, I guess it was 3 or 4 weeks. Didn't say a word. for the first 3 or 4 weeks. And I remember the first time I spoke after that, how much voice we waste in life,
Yes.
how much, how many words we frivolously use for no reason, but yet to impress somebody or to sound intelligent, whatever. That it changed my life. That whole process of the 8 months or whatever it was, 7, 8 months in the monastery. And I came out of there and started over again. But here's my lesson that I learned from that whole process. I learned a lot, but the big one was this. Remember, I told you I had 3 cocktail bars, a nightclub, instrumentation company, blah, blah, MTV, blah, blah. That all disappeared. 2007, 2008, it all disappeared. I came back from 8 months being away, and nobody even noticed I was missing.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. There you go. If you ever think you're valuable, stick your finger in the water, cup of water, and
Yeah,
pull it out and see what's left, right? Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, everybody kissed my ass because they wanted to get in the club, drink for free, cocktails. They wanted to be on TV, all this kind of stuff. Gone. And I was like, I
Wow.
guess that's life, man. We better focus on you. And that's what I started to do. Started
Wow.
focusing.
Man, that's an incredible story. That I think that definitely was an angel sent from God to save
Had
your
to
life,
be.
brother,
Had to
because
be.
that was two times back to back,
Yeah.
right? Not a coincidence.
Same action too. It was the same action. It was that,
Wow.
yeah.
So when you were at the monastery, obviously that helped you with the PTSD, right? So what
Yeah.
was it? Was it just clearing your head, not having to think about stuff? What was the process behind it? Because a lot of
Uh,
people now are doing like psychedelic stem cells, other stuff. So was there any of that stuff involved in there at that
no, not
location?
then. Not then. I did some ayahuasca in 2006 and 2007. And then 2008, I focused on me. And then after that, I I did. I worked the last 16 years with plant medicine. So
Okay.
ayahuasca, San Pedro, ibogaine, a lot of this. I did bufo, 5-MeO DMT,
Yep.
psilocybin. I've worked with everything, but it's all facilitators. That's not the real.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a cure. It opens you up to heal yourself. Like if someone says take ibogaine, you'll be cured, it's bullshit. Because I took ibogaine and it didn't cure me.
Right.
I wasn't ready for it. It actually was the worst experience of my life with any plant medicine. But here's what I think what I learned over the years is we try to get rid of what we went through and what we did, this kind of stuff. But what haunts me is what I didn't do in war. More
Right.
than any, I didn't save more children. I didn't stop things that I should have stopped, but I couldn't because I was under orders. It wasn't my place. It wasn't my rank. I wasn't in charge. All these, hierarchy that we live in. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I should have said, hell no. What are we doing here? What is this bullshit? No way.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And that's what really affects me more than what I did. It's what I didn't do is what really, really, really makes me feel helpless because I didn't do it. I could have. Probably would have been put in jail for it or whatever, but I could have done it still. And
Right. Exactly.
looking back 30 years later, I'd be out of jail and I'd be fine. You know what I mean?
but,
I mean,
but you know what? All that we go through is lessons learned, right? Look how many people you're touching now, right? Changing lives, right? So, it was just a stepping stone. Unfortunately, it was something you learned from, right?
well,
It's like
look,
it's
I embrace it, man. I embrace it all as part of my life and part of my journey. Things that happen. Look, and here's the real message I wanted to give is, yeah, I went through all that stuff and I healed in the monastery and out of 2008 and all this kind of stuff and yada yada yada. And I was like peaking my game. Everything's going well. And in October 21, my second wife, with who I have 2 kids, left me overnight. All that work I did disappeared instantly.
man, oh man.
And I
Yeah.
fell into a pit. I fell into a pit of ugly, horrible darkness.
And that's after you did everything?
Yeah, that was in 21.
Wow. Holy cow. Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's always with you a little bit.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that you think of the military every day too, right? People still call me captain or general, even though I never was. But it's just this. I guess it's people attribute my presence and my command, the way I command things, to the military.
Right, exactly.
You know,
So
even though it's not.
speaking let's get out of the mill. Why do people call you the hitman? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can tell you that. So the hitman is the hit principles is what I teach in the book. It's also what I've taught for almost 20 years now in the corporate world when I was running the corporation, and I made it up, right? So honesty, integrity, and transparency. Honesty with yourself while you do say and think like you do. Transparency is how you step into the world with that honesty, and that becomes your ongoing reputation. The byproduct is integrity. Integrity makes you authentic, and that allows you to dictate your market value. So I take you through that, all the steps. How do you be honest with yourself? Like, and it isn't like, be honest with yourself. Why? No, it's like, why, when I walk into a club with you, we look at the guy, oh, look at that guy. He's probably, like he's hanging out with 3 women. He's probably a fruit or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this, like, you know how it is. The guys get together and talking about trash about the good looking guys. Why? Why are you thinking like that? That has something to do with you. And here's my story. It's not in the book, but this is what I've come up with over the years. Anything on the outside that bothers you is just because it's in here.
Yes.
If it's out there, it's in here, period. So if you're not square in your world is not square. That sounds like typical, but let me say it harder. Without you in your world does not exist. So who do you need to take care of? You.
Right, exactly.
Because without you, your world doesn't exist.
Correct.
So to make it clear for people, that doesn't mean to be, egotistical, and it means don't give from a half full cup. Don't give from an empty cup. Give what you can, give care, compassion, that kind of stuff, but don't make it your identity to be a giver if you don't have anything to give. How many people do you know that do that? I know tons of people that do that. They do that. Why? Because they're seeking the feeling of being needed. Right? Because they don't have the love for themselves. This is a long discussion we could get into here, but loving yourself means respecting yourself. For me, first of all, what do I need? Unequivocally, what do I need? And then do I really need what I think I need? Or is that just something that I've been programmed to think that I need?
Right.
These are all the things that we talk about in the book.
Awesome. What keeps you motivated every day?
Well, for me, motivation is from without, inspiration is from within.
Okay.
So motivation is like a kickstart. It's like starting the engine. It's the pull cord, right? When you're starting the lawnmower or whatever, or a snowmobile maybe. That's motivation. Inspiration is what endures.
Got it.
Discipline is also a short term. Discipline, you can't be disciplined your whole life. It's impossible. You can't be motivated your whole life. It's impossible, but you can be inspired. And I think I train myself to be inspired, and I inspire myself because I know that every day I have a chance to make a difference in my life for the ones around me that I love. And I know that I'm always setting myself up for success. And even if sometimes, my wife says sometimes, how do you always go into these meetings like you're going to win? And you might lose 50 times.
Right.
You still go in there like you're going to win. I said, what other choice do I have?
Right.
Whine, bitch, and complain and then make your life miserable?
Yeah, woe's me, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or just keep going, man. I literally get up every day. I'm like, okay, go to the gym, look in the mirror, train, feel good, look good, let's go. Right. And then I sit down and I start working. Well, I don't start working until 3, but in the afternoon, because I live in Turkey. Right. So everything's
different time. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Most of our clients are in the States. So like right now it's almost 8 p.m. So I usually work from 3 to 9. Right. I go to the gym, come back, spend about 2 or 3 hours with my wife. And then I start to work and I'm fired up. So I went to the gym. I feel great. I'm with my wife. I feel great. We eat lunch and, drink coffee or do whatever. And then I'm ready for work. It's like the opposite of what everybody else does. Everybody works first and does all that after. It's a great way to work, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
And I just, I just love doing it that way. And I love, I'm not going to lie, I love being the provider for my family. I love it. I absolutely, it's a must for me. That's also a value thing for me. Like I feel more valuable when I'm providing than if I'm not providing.
Right.
know?
Well, we're built that way, right? To provide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Some
pretty
people say,
cool.
oh, that's egotistical, but whatever. I don't care what you call it. I like it and I want it.
Right, exactly. And then and the next question, I'm glad you brought that up. I was gonna say, how important is working out and eating right?
Hmm. I'll be 60 in 2 years.
Nice.
Well,
Look at it.
and I'm
Guns are still
still,
there. Nice. I love it.
yeah. Yeah. I still train. I still eat right. I cycle through things like I'll do like the lion diet, then I'll do keto, then I'll do like 2 weeks at a time.
Okay.
Keep my body guessing, see what's going on. Steven, what are you doing? So I'll get bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller all the time. I got like different shirts for different periods, because
Oh my gosh.
when I'm carb cycling, I get big because I'm an endomorph, which means I gain muscle fast, right? But I also gain fat fast.
Okay, got it.
So it's like this back and forth all the time. But I hold my own about between 230 and 250. That's pretty much where I bounce
And
around.
how tall are you? Six what?
6'4".
6'4". Got it, got it. And do you do mostly weights or do you do a little cardio as well?
I do weights, but I do super and triple sets. So I'm constantly out of breath.
Okay, got it. So that is your cardio basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm not a
how
big
did
cardio.
how did faith contribute to your success?
It's everything, man.
Yeah,
I mean, without faith, what do you got? I
right.
mean, seriously, without faith, what do you got? I don't care what you have faith in, as long as it's something bigger than yourself. If it's God, the universe, whoever, Orion or whatever you want to have faith in. But for me, it's God. And
Send
for
an
me, it's
angel to
weird.
save you, first of all.
Yeah, first of
Yeah,
all, well, not first of all. That was
right.
like, I mean, look, stepfather number three, gun in my mouth,
Oh wow. Holy cow.
drunk, drunk.
Wow.
That was definitely saved there.
Wow.
Car accidents, the war, fights. Like I had over 120 fights, fist fights in the streets of Berlin
Wow.
in 2 years
Holy
because I was
cow.
raging fucking pizza every night. Oh, I was a doorman, and they
Anything
were
triggered
sending
you.
people like all these people heard about this big American guy thinks he's tough, and they would all try me, every single one of them. I'm like, bring it, I just bring it, bring it. I was like tackling people, and I broke my ankle. I have a titanium eye socket from getting my eye kicked in, like
Wow. Holy
broken
cow.
collarbone, like you name it.
So he's been there
But
all your life.
I had
Wow.
this rage. I had this rage, that I just couldn't get out. Yeah, it was crazy. Forgot
So
all about that.
if you were 20 today, what would you do differently? Would you join the army? Would you start business? What would you do
You know what I would do?
for the people that are listening?
I would try to find my wife, but that wouldn't make sense because she would have been 1 year old. So that's
You would be in jail for sure.
yeah. Um,
Or maybe
um,
not in Europe. I don't know.
no, give it a few years in America. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding. If anyway, well, we won't get into politics, but I don't know. It's always hard to say. I don't think I would change much in my life
okay.
because hindsight's 2020, of course. But I mean, look, I'm who I am, and I'm good at things that I do, and I get to speak all over the world on stages. Like I spoke with Tucker Carlson in Tampa. I'm speaking in Austin in a couple of weeks. I'm speaking in I don't know Dubai. I get to do all this stuff because of what I went through.
Right. Exactly. Yep. That's
Right.
part of your
So
story. Yep.
I mean, I worked for Mick Jagger, Olivia Newton-John, Andrea Bocelli, the European Parliament, Croatian Parliament. I helped your Croatian Parliament set up their veterans program.
Wow.
And I got to talk to veterans from Croatia and Kosovo and all these, but it was Yugoslavia, right? Before the Americans went in and illegally broke the country up. And that's
Right.
another. Um, these guys were neighbors. So you can imagine you're living here, your buddy's living here, he's Croatian, he's Serbian or whatever. War breaks out, you guys walk out and start shooting at each other. War's over, you're living beside each other again. That's where they're at. And
Wow.
there was no programs for these guys to help them out and figure out how to deal with all the trauma because, so-and-so killed my mother's wife or my mother's, brother or whatever. So I helped them set that up. And I've done all this crazy shit, got into politics. I was also like in American politics for a while. And I mean, just shit that I had no business doing. I had no experience doing, but I did it because I had the certainty that I could,
Right. Exactly. Well, I think
and
God.
And it doesn't matter if I absolutely know how to do something, because the certainty doesn't come from me knowing I do it. It comes from me knowing that I can do it. Number one. Number two, that I know somebody who can, or I know somebody who knows somebody who can, or I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who can. That's all I need to do. That's all I need to,
Right.
in anything that I do.
That's true. Yeah, I love your story about how you walked up to Mick Jagger and Olivia Newton-John. Can you share that real quick? That
Yeah,
kind
Mick
of
Jagger. So I was in
talks about the
Berlin.
presence, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was in Berlin, 1998. And I was listening to the radio. Radio. Who does that anymore? But I was listening to, and it said Mick Jagger or the Rolling Stones are coming to Berlin for a 2-week tour. They're going to 3 different places, and they'll be here for 2 or 3 weeks. And but their bodyguard's staying in London because he hurt his back jumping on stage. And I was like, huh, I'm gonna go be his bodyguard. I'm gonna go be the bodyguard. So I went to the hotel, and because I had cocktail bars at the time, still, and 2 years, I guess my first one was still open then. Um, I had to invite every Monday. I had gastronomy night, which means anyone who worked in the hotel or restaurant business could come to my bar on Mondays and drink for half price.
Oh wow. Okay, so
So
they knew you.
I knew everybody in the city, like everybody in the west side of the city. So I went to the hotel and I knew everybody. I'm like, hey, where's Mick? And he's like, oh, he's supposed to be coming down in an hour. His van's waiting outside, blah, blah, blah. So I waited in the lobby near the restaurant. And when he came down, I walked up to him and said, hello, Mick Jagger. I'm your new bodyguard, Stephen Kuhn. And he's like, pointing at his bodyguard, like who's, or at his assistants, like who's this guy? And he's like, talk to CJ. And I went to CJ, big Irish guy, older guy, and he talked to me. He's like, "What?" I said, "Look, I'm an American veteran. I speak German. I know the city like the back of my hand. Blah blah blah." And he goes, "All right. Well, we do need a bodyguard. We're thinking about hiring one, but I have one question for you. If you answer it right, I'll give you the job." I'm like, "Okay, what's the question?" He said, "Do you know where the best German sausage is in the city?" I said, "I do." And he goes, "Good, you're hired.
Nice.
How's $400 a day?" I was like, "What?"
That's amazing. How many people?
Mick's
How many
bodyguard.
people would take that leap to do that?
No,
Very,
no.
very small percentage.
Yeah. Because the same thing when I walked, I walked up to Bill Clinton in Berlin also when he was in the Intercontinental Hotel for, I forget, conference or something. And I don't even know how to get in the room, but I got in and I said, hey, William Jefferson Clinton, welcome to Berlin. How you doing? And he's like, hey, nice to meet you. It's like as if we knew each other forever. Why? Because I use his full name. No one ever does that.
Right. Exactly. It got his attention. Yeah.
Well, if you call him Mr. President, you're a
You're everybody else.
fanboy.
Right.
You're a
Right.
fanboy, basically. If you call him Bill, you're like, excuse me. You're definitely not going to call him Slick Willie because that's an insult. So what do you do?
I was thinking something else, but I'll bite my tongue. So, so Stephen, you help a lot of businesses. Can you share what your business does and how you could help others that are listening today, our audience? Whether it's individuals, corporations, whatever the case could be.
Sure. Well, it's because of my background. I have so many things that I've done in my life. I've owned and exited 20 of my own businesses, turned around over 100 businesses, ran corporations, a PLC, which is a publicly listed company from the UK, from South Africa, and from a NASDAQ listed company in Chicago. I did the joint venture between a PLC and the NASDAQ company. Because of all that experience I have, I was doing business advisory for years and years, 20 years. And at the same time, that turns into coaching because if anyone's ever in the corporate world, we've been doing coaching since the 1970s. So it's nothing new, right? Like everybody says, I'm a coach, really? Okay. So it's a little different if you've been in this world for a long time. And so I use all the experiences that I have and apply it to the coaching model, and I turn it into an advisory where we help clients and their businesses grow and scale, become exit ready, including funding. And so I've recently started a new company with a partner. It's called Nova Scale Partners, and we help people do that. Fund the deal, grow and scale your company, prepare for exit or pre-IPO, IPO.
Nice.
In between that whole period there, we can bring in either ourselves or subject matter experts to help with marketing, to help with sales, with social media growth, which I don't really get into. I just have a contractor for that. But some of the most amazing things is the joint ventures that we create with our existing clients. For instance, we have someone who has a company that's doing 5-10 million, maybe 5-10 million a year, and we have another company that needs their services. And instead of just exchanging, hey, why don't you guys pay each other? Let's make one company out of it and make it grow it bigger and grow and scale it.
Nice.
So that's sort of what we do. It's all a case by case basis, but I can tell you this: people think way too small these days, way too small. At the beginning of the show, I was talking about, someone wanted $50 million, someone wants $1 billion. That
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of money, and it is. Don't get me wrong, it's a hell of a lot of money. But the more you're surrounded by people who use that kind of money, who deploy that kind of money, who need that kind of money, the simpler it is for you to understand that that's actually achievable for anyone.
Right. Exactly. That's true.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I always thought I know the exact day when I knew that I could be a billionaire. I'm not, but I knew that I could be a billionaire.
Right.
When I was exposed to a deal that I could actually do myself that would make me a billionaire. I was like, holy shit, I'm here. Like I can do this right now and I'd eventually be a billionaire. Like, holy shit, like it's here. Like, wow. We're still working on the deal. But it just sort of hit me like, man, it's not as like crazy as I thought it was. I'm not even close to being a billionaire, but I'm saying this it happens quick sometimes, depending on the deals that you have. Look, man, we started this company in November. Right now, we got over $3 billion in LOEs,
Wow.
le- letters of
There's
engagement,
no intent.
letters of engagement. So that
Engagement.
that,
Oh,
that,
Louise. Okay.
that,
I thought
that
you said
yeah, that
LOIs.
means
Okay.
we will find funding for you. We're gonna, this kind of stuff. Five of those are already in closing right now. The due diligence is about finished, and we're moving forward.
Wow. That's amazing.
Um, and if you look at that much money, and if you look at a percentage that we work out as advisors, that's a shit ton of money. That's like life-changing money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we started that in December, and sorry,
Wow.
November. And why? Why is it so quickly so successful? Because we took everything that we knew, we figured out a model and our avatar, as they call it, your demographic, and we started talking to them. And now we can't even stop. We have like 45 deals we haven't even looked at yet.
Holy moly.
It's just in our inbox, it's out of control. We don't look for deals. We don't solicit for deals. It just comes.
Just word of
So
mouth, pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So that's and what I actually love doing is coaching because it keeps me sharp. And I'm good too. Like I love getting into someone's business with them. And it's like, wait a second, what are you doing? Like I'm pretty tough about it. Like I don't sugarcoat it and
you
go
don't
through.
pull the punches. Yeah. Yeah.
Nah, I don't go. Well, always walk through the three steps of front. We're gonna go through. No, it's like, dude, what do you need? What do you want? Like it's like this. What's your problem? Let's go out and find a solution, to quantify that solution, and present it. And here we go. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much how we work. And along the way, we're working with you. Get out of your head. Get out of your own head. Realize that you're bigger than you ever thought you could be. Right? You're much bigger already than you ever thought you could be. You
Right.
just got to step back and see it. I live by three things: decide, receive, let go. You want to clear your head? Receive, decide, let go. Receive what's in front of you, no matter what it is. I'm talking to you, whatever you have, a car, whatever it is. Receive, decide what you're going to do with it or parts of it, and let everything else go that doesn't serve you. You live like that, you're living a free life, brother, and you got space and room to create and to see and to grow.
Love it. Yeah. I think it's incredible, right? A lot of people never believe they could even be a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
So, I think, if you're struggling, you're having a hard time, hit up Steven, right? Hit up Steven and he could coach you. And it's like, how do I get to multi-million dollar deals? He has the network, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
say, hey, your network sometimes is worth more than the money that you have in the bank, right? Steven's one of those people that you want to connect with and make sure that you network with them.
Well, look, I met two veterans when I was in Tampa speaking. They came up to me and said, "Oh, we want to work with you." Yada yada yada. So they brought me on, and I coached them as a team. Within a month, they owned the company,
Wow.
and they got paid for it.
Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah. So how do you take 40% of a company and get paid for it? How is that even possible? Well, that's what I do.
That's
So
amazing.
you can go out and get percentages of equity in companies, give a little bit of value add in your specialty. Next thing you know, you own a company and they're paying you a retainer. And these guys are like, what? Because we got off the call with this client and they're like, do we now own like part of that company? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what? How did that happen? I'm like, you happy? He's like, hell yeah, I'm happy. This is awesome. I now own a new company. It's like, it's just sort of the things we do. I have a call that I've hosted every Wednesday for 5 years.
No way. Wow.
Every Wednesday, it's M&A, funding, entrepreneurs, and it's from all over the world for people who are in this sort of M&A, buy and sell company space. So I've had all kinds there. Everybody, sometimes there's 70 people, sometimes there's seven, you
Okay.
know, it just depends. And it's for clients and people who have gone through the M&A training, some kind of M&A training, so we could all come together and learn best from each other. I've been doing it for 5 years. I looked the other day, I'm like, holy shit. And every single call is recorded for the last 5 years in Dropbox.
Holy moly. Wow. Talk about
I'm waiting for
value.
an AI. I'm waiting for an AI so I can upload it all and they can create a question like M&A question, like an M&A chat GPT. You know, like what happens when this happens? Spits it out because we have specialists in there talking about their deals and how they structured it and where they got loan. It's pretty cool.
So are you developing that AI right now?
No, no, I
No?
don't have time for that.
Okay.
I don't have
Uh,
time for that. One day, I don't know, someone's going to come to me and say, "Hey, I got this program. Good, upload it."
nice,
Yeah.
nice. I'll send this out to, I know a guy that does a lot of AI stuff. He just developed something for veterans to get their disability benefits. That an avatar actually talks to them and shows
Wow.
them and actually ask any questions, reviews your doctor stuff, which is pretty cool. So it's a
You want to
technology that,
hear something that'll blow your mind? I'll tell you this
yeah.
real quick. One second. Let me look real quick here. See if I'm late. No, I'm not. Okay. So, veteran, ex-Delta Force, CIA operator, works with the guy, what's his name, from Sound of Freedom. He's one of the operators.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
A friend of mine.
Okay.
He has a patent worth $22 million. He's the only person that holds this patent in the world, and it allows him to take someone's death certificate and get all the digital data that belongs to them. So that
Oh
means
my gosh.
air cloud, or all that stuff. So it started with veterans because it started as a research. How do I find out what happened with the 22 veterans every day, right? That kill themselves, that commit suicide. What happened in their last minutes of their life, the last days of their life? That's why they started doing this. So they had to get a patent so they could get the birth certificate, so they could have legality to do that. And they found out they're trying to figure out a pattern. What's the pattern in the last days of a veteran's life when he takes his own life or her own
Right.
life? That's how it started. Now it's turned into this thing called digital legacy. And it's crazy because now you can upload your will to the blockchain. You can update all your data to blockchain. You can segment it so that when you do pass, certain people get certain data. It automatically corrugates it with AI, pictures with pictures, people's faces gets corrugated and stuff like that. And you can record videos that get released on a certain date. So, for instance, if you're in the app and I'm in the app and I want to give you, like, you're my son and you're getting married in 20 years, I'm dead by then. I'm going to have recorded a video that will release on the date you get married or release on your birthday of X amount. It'll say, hey, son, I'm long gone, but I just want you to know. And it will take all of your public data, all the data you have in your hard drives, and it'll make an AI avatar of you,
Nice.
like this, a video right here,
Wow.
right? And with all the knowledge that's online and on those hard drives, like me, all my speeches, hundreds of podcasts, all my books will be in my avatar. So my kids can talk to my avatar and hear my voice, my face, answering questions
Wow.
on the real knowledge that I actually had.
That's powerful. That's amazing.
And if you think
Wow.
it's far in the future, it's not, because I almost got scammed on an oil and gas deal on a Zoom call with an AI avatar. And I thought she was real. I was sitting with two other clients and I'm like, is she real? And they're like, yeah, of course she's real. She's real. I'm like, something's not right, man. I caught it. It was AI. It was AI avatar. They were trying to scam us. That's how
Wow.
advanced they are. Yeah, it's crazy.
You're gonna have to connect me with that guy that developed that other program. So love to
Well,
have him
we're
on the
funding him.
podcast.
We're in the process of funding him right now to get it launched.
Okay.
He's got the MVP done. He's got some great backing. I mean, he knows all those guys, Sean Ryan, and he's one of those guys, right?
Oh,
So
nice, nice. That's awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
I can definitely get you hooked up with him. He's great, amazing
Awesome.
kid, amazing
Appreciate
guy.
it. So pretty much, I think we're a little bit over, so let's get and wrap
Yeah,
up here. So, anyone listening today, just pretty much reach out to you on social media. Is that the best way to get hold of you?
yeah. Stephen Eugene Kuhn. I'm on I'm on TikTok now. Literally 2 weeks ago,
You're not dancing though, right?
I had what's that?
You're not dancing on TikTok, right?
No, 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 no.
Somebody asked
Cat.
me that the other
No,
day. I go, I'm on
no.
TikTok. He goes, you're not dancing, right? I go, no.
No, well, I had like 1,200 followers like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm at 95,000 because I posted a few Ukraine videos, and it just went completely bananas. X as well, and Instagram as well. So, my wife's Ukrainian.
Right.
We brought her family from Ukraine here when the war broke out to Turkey, So they're here refugees. They're still here after
Wow.
almost 8 years. And so that's our story. And I started telling that story. And of course, that just spiraled out of control. I was on General Mike Flynn's podcast network. I was like, they've invited me all these places. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take a look here. All right. So we talked about that. What would you like people listening to today to remember about you or your work that you do?
I don't know if they should remember me or my work. It doesn't really matter to me, but what matters to me is that they walk away with something that means something to them.
Okay.
And if you can live by HIT, honesty, integrity, transparency, honesty with yourself, why you do say and think like you do, transparency, how you step in the door with that honesty, it's your ongoing reputation, byproducts, integrity makes you authentic, authenticity allows you to dictate your market value. Boom. Then you're going to walk away with something that really, really matters. If you really want something on top of that, this is the way you get into anything that you ever want to get into. It's called creating space. You show up wholly and fully for the person or the people in front of you with no preconceived notions or cookie cutter solutions or an expectation of a specific outcome, focusing on the only thing you can control in your life, and that's your intention of adding value by solving problems. If you do that in every situation, whether it's with your wife or your kids or your husband, right, or business owners or buddies or pals, show up wholly and fully, no expectations of a specific outcome, focus on the intention of adding value by solving problems, and live by HIT, brother and sisters, it'll change your life forever. I promise you. And you will be looked at as a beacon of leadership wherever you go. I promise you.
Yeah, that's one thing I loved about you. When I met you, I could tell that was in you, brother. So
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, if people could learn how to live that way, it'll definitely be a huge benefit. It was great catching up with you today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and giving back like you always do, man. Like I said, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. I'm gonna have to have you back on, and we'll have to catch up pretty soon as well. To our listeners, share and like this episode. These stories need to be heard. Stay focused, stay winning. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, Dave.